Welcome, everyone. Welcome and welcome, woman who stands shining, who will introduce more in detail and probably doesn't need much of an introduction, but we'll do it just the same. So wonderful to see so many people from all around the world. At least we're imagining there's people from all around the world because I've seen some people come in from Cape Town, South Africa, and from Kansas, Kansa lands, and more people from France and other places. Yeah, keep putting your name in and where you're landing in the world in this particular moment. It's so good to be here with you all. And Rachael and I from Purpose Guides Institute want to welcome you. I'm Michael Tenderheart, and we're teachers for the Purpose Guides Institute. And if you want to learn more, you can look at purposeguides.org to hear more about some of our programs and offerings. Rachael will say more about it later. And we're here because and invited our elder, Pat McCabe, to be here to help us in these times. I just came back from a Sundance out on the Pine Ridge Reservation. And one day it was 111 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot, dry. And these dances, these ceremonies are for the people. We're living in tough times. It was tough times for seeing a lot of people on the reservation. Tough times for people in the world that were suffering extreme heat, I think at the same time, all over Europe. And somebody had whispered who was staying somewhat connected to the world events that many people died from the heat. So here we are trying to find out what's being asked of us in these times by the Creator. What is ours to do? And Pat's here to help us, guide us in that with the wisdom of her people. But to introduce our dear sister, dear elder, Pat McCabe, Weyakba Nai We, Woman Stands Shining, is a Diné Navajo mother, grandmother, activist, artist, and writer, ceremonial leader, and international speaker. When we spoke all together a little bit ago, she's leaving for, I think you said, Ireland here shortly. So she is asked to speak all around the world. Okay, so she's a voice for global peace that draws upon the indigenous sciences, these ancient technologies of thriving life to reframe questions about sustainability and balance. Pat is devoted to supporting the next generation, the next 7 generations of being functional members of the sacred hoop of life and upholding the honor of being what it means to be human. And we welcome you, dear Pat. We welcome you, and we invite you now to open sacred space for us.
I was going to say, greetings to you, Michael, and to you, Rachael. Thank you, Purpose Guides Institute, for hosting me again. I know I've come to speak a little bit to your very specific Purpose Guides community, but now we're kind of opening up into the larger world. And so thanks for hosting this moment and this conversation for all of us. My name is Pat McCabe, and I come from Diné Nation. So I'll say She'e'ia, Tachi Nishli, Aro Ashiba Shishchi, Ma'arish Geshna Dashanale, and Klaus Chi Dao Shiche, Guataos Dari Nishli. I'm telling you about my clans. And then I was adopted into the Lakota spiritual way of life as well. And in that way, I was given the name Weyakba Najiwi, translating roughly to womaning, standing, shining. And and so today I'm over here in Kentucky, and outside of Louisville, and I've come to this part of the world before for a few different reasons, but one of them is for the Festival of Faiths, and through that prayer, that multi-faith prayer, I really tuned into this Buffalo Trace area over here, and also the way the bald eagles have been returning back to the Ohio River that's passing through here. You know, where I come from in northern New Mexico, we have the Rio Grande, and it feels pretty big to me. But then I come over here and I see the Ohio River, and I'm like, these are the real big river people over here. So I'm saying that to start to acknowledge this place, and I'm inviting this place. I'm inviting the spirit of Tatanka Oyate, the Buffalo Nation. Yeah, excuse me, in Diné Bazad we say yeah, um, to participate here in what takes place between us and anything that I might have to say. I'm just so grateful to Buffalo Nation um, for all the ways that they support me in my life and really support Earth and humanity and all, and also acknowledging the Wombly, the Eagle Nation here. Um, their way of carrying our words to, we say we carry our words to the spirit. They're someone who can move between worlds, move between this material world to the amorphous world. I think I got a sister on this call. She knows how much I love that word. And um, so yeah, and Buffalo Nation, I'll say also, the way that I think about Buffalo Nation is being so deeply of material world, just even the mass of buffalo, when they travel, they shake the earth, right? And they're here to share themselves with us, to give us food, clothing, and shelter. And so in that sense, they're just so rooted in material world, and yet they are showing us that way that spirit embodies the material, that they have this incredible heart that has fearless generosity. They're a reflection of this Mother Earth. I say her economy is radical abundance and fearless generosity. And the buffalo, we say the buffalo knows that they're going to give their life to us, and they do that willingly. So that's what kind of powerful heart they have, powerful way of being community, and also fearless. I would say I always see them as being fearless because of the way the spirit comes to them. So in that spirit, I'm gonna open here with a prayer on our behalf of our gathering here. And so I'll say, Wakantanka, Tankashla, Oshimaka, Shema, Shache, holy people all around. It's me, Wiakba, Najiwi, coming before you on this holy day. Ampetukile. And I would ask that you take a good look at us here, all of us who are gathered. We're gathered in this device as our way of coming together sometimes. Um, and I reach out to this land that I'm in. I reach out to the spirit of Tatanka Oyate, Buffalo Nation, and ask that you might listen to us. But I also want to say I'm making a place for you here to have your input. But I'm also asking if you might please bless each and every one here with that power, that you might, that your breath, maybe let's just take a breath together and inhale and exhale. And one more time, inhale and exhale. You can release the breath and let it flow again. But I want to accept your breath here and ask for you to give us fire in the heart, to give us powerful heart, the powerful heart of selflessness, the powerful heart of fearless generosity, the powerful heart of community. Thank you. Thank you for being that example. And we find you all over this Mother Earth, everywhere. And so thank you for helping us keep our soft heart and keep our fearless generosity. And I invite you, Holy Eagle Nation, Wambli, to also be here with us. The way that you have this vision, again embodied, and yet also overview vision far-seeing, and also in this place of being able to carry the messages back and forth between us holy earth surface walkers and the divine and the spirit and perhaps even cosmos, you know. So I invite you and say we make a place for you here to carry whatever messages might we might need to hear today from spirit, from all the divine helpers. I'm gonna open this up to that and the cosmos, which serves the very highest possibility for life, light, and love for our beautiful Mother Earth, unique in the multiverse. Um, and then I ask that what we do here today, you know, travel um, in time and space, that are coming together, two or more are gathered, might bless all of not only our kind, the five-fingered ones, but all of our relations, flying ones, swimming ones, creepy crawling ones, four-legged ones, standing nation, all the waters, all the mountains, all the stones, all that, you know, all the cloud nation. Um, let this meeting, let this coming together serve the very highest possibility for life and light and love for all. And I'm going to take a very humble bow here before the fire, our grandma, grandpa fireplace, and say thank you for all that you have given to us as human beings. We couldn't actually have our life without you. Sometimes we lose track of that. We can just walk over across the room and flip a switch and have cool or hot or light or whatever, but it really the origin comes back to you. And so I want to say thank you for tending to our ancestors and bringing us this far. And I also ask that you might have pity and mercy on us and have pity and mercy on the land and the life. Um, it is true that we have been moving in a way that has not been helping to create balance, and you've come in so many places, and so many, so many of our relations are having to experience your power, and we're being humbled very deeply, and all our relations are being humbled very deeply. So all I can do is just ask from the very bottom of my heart that you might have pity and mercy on us, please, and show us the way to have right relations. Not only show us the way, but give us the willingness to have right relations. And in that same way, I bow before the cloud people and this holy water, because I know that there are many who are suffering, you know, and really having to feel how fragile we are before your power when you really come in your full power here on this Mother Earth. So there again, I humbly bow and ask that you might have pity and mercy on us. And again, not only show us how we might move in a different way, but give us the willingness and show us how we might come together and break down whatever has to be broken down in our thinking, in our feeling, in our fears, in our understanding of security and all of these things that feel like they bind us from taking right action. And just ask for your help that way and in as gentle way as can happen. But please help all the relations who are displaced and suffering from feeling these forces. And Mother Earth, I just want to say, at least on behalf myself and anybody who wants to join me, that we love you so much. We love you so much. And we want our life. We want our life. We want to live. We want to live with you. We want to live with all our relations. We want to live with all of this beauty. And so I just ask that you help us find our way back into your lap, back into the strength of your mothering way, back into your wisdom, and help us to not have to try to take the lead from you, but be led by you. So again, I'm going to ask us to take a couple breaths together, and then we'll inhale and exhale, and inhale again, and exhale. This time when we inhale, And exhale. Know that we're sharing breath with all the breathers of life. So one more breath. And exhale. And we can release the breath and arrive here again back in our space. Feel your hands and feet. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and be present here. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, thank you so much for that very beautiful, reverent opening for our gathering today. And just so much appreciation to you and Pat for joining us today and for this conversation about seeding a new future. Seems like it's a very important conversation to be having in the times that we're living in. So I really appreciate you joining us and being with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for everybody here, just to give you a bit of idea of structure, Michael and I have some questions that we'd love to ask Pat and begin our conversation that way. And we will then open up to questions from other people in this gathering. And to do that, we have closed the chat so that we can all be present with Pat. But if you have a question, you can still message Marlena, who is here, and she's doing tech support for us today from PGI. So deep gratitude, Marlena, for being with us today. If you have a question, please message it to Marlena, and then we will pick up those questions when we move towards the question and answer section a bit later on. So this gathering, seeding a new future, it's really feeling into the times that we find ourselves in. When we look around, we can see that there are, the wars that are happening, ecological breakdown, increased othering, increased separation, violence, breakdown of systems, etc. And one way to frame that would be that we are coming towards the end of a particular time, if you like, and we are coming towards the beginning of something new that wants to emerge, a time of collapse and renewal. But my first question to you, Pat, is what, in your view, in your belief system, in your wisdom, like what is particular about the times that we find ourselves in right now?
Thank you. Well, I mean, particular today time that we're in, there's this really big cosmological event taking place with the planets at the moment. Some people call it, what is it, Barbeau's basket. And I will also name that, and we're meeting, our meeting time here is at the very peak of this influence. And I'm also going to say that we're coming out of a period, for those of you who are tracking solar flares and such and the electromagnetic activity, it's just been off the charts recently, like kind of in rhythmic pulses towards Earth. And I don't know about any of y'all, but I have been going through it. It's just been so deep. And most everybody I know, people who generally keep their balance better than I do, we're all just saying, wow, what is happening? So I just want to reflect back to anybody here who's been feeling like, oh my gosh, world events are getting to me or whatever. Like if you haven't consulted with the community around you and notice a lot of people are being affected. And the way that the way that effect seems to be is, for me, it's really having me excavate some deep business, old things, that have to be, well, I'm saying they have to be tended, but what do I mean by that? They are impediments for me because they're sense making that I made maybe as a child, or maybe even epigenetically speaking, from my lineage or past events of history on my people or such. But there's sense making that came from a place that wasn't as informed as I am now. That's not to say that I'm the be all end all of being informed about these things, but I'm more informed. And I've been actively, I haven't, not because I thought it was a good idea. I've just kind of been keeping my head above water with doing trauma healing work. And I do think that there's a reason why there's this buzzword about somatics and trauma and all these modalities coming forward. I really do feel like this is part of um it's a part of a reckoning for having lived in a pretty sustained period of the power over paradigm, in which I say, also call it modern world paradigm sometimes, in which you must have power over another in order to have what you need. And so I say it's an inherently violent paradigm. It repels cooperation and collaboration. Um, and it's also antithetical to Earth entirely. Earth paradigm. Earth paradigm is nothing if not completely relational and interdependent. Thich Nhat Hanh calls us interbeing. So in that sense, we're a single organism. All the different life forms, um, we all together make up the organism of Earth. And so to come to this sort of, some people call it like a culminating moment of reckoning with that power over paradigm. And it's like our body. Now I'm starting to see like my nervous system as like a truth teller. My nervous system can't lie. So my nervous system has been calling, I call baloney out there. It's like this cannot be the way. This cannot be the way. And probably more and more, at least in my circles, people come around, and really in all circles, even in circles that feel diametrically opposed to me, they're also saying this cannot be the way. So there's this sense like this something is just all wrong here, right? And so um, I really feel like this, like we're being called more and more to clear what we have control over, which is the sense making that we've made with less information, with less maturity. I know early on in certainly my teenage years, I had no spiritual life at all. I was a devout atheist because I was rejecting the Christian church that had taken over my grandparents and parents in the residential boarding schools. And I was like, no, not you. And therefore, there is nothing. And so I'm like experiencing some very heavy things without a spiritual reference, without a cultural reference, without any reference outside of power over paradigm. So now, as I go back and revisit those things with much more insight, capacity, spirit, modalities, I can have new sense making. And that, I think, that's part of what I think is happening here, especially with this particular thing that's been going on pretty much through the whole month of July, um, is like a really deep call to sort of re-examine the sense making, the stories that we're operating out of, the things that we have called true that need to be re-examined, right? Because I feel like we're being called to open to something quite different right now. And I guess I'll just say, and I'll wrap it up here, that um, there are other. I feel like there's so many other possibilities coming, sort of showering Earth, if you will, from other places and even spiritually. And so I actually have the sense that our bodies are being reconfigured in some ways. And it's so interesting because our emotions and our patterns of emotions and our patterns of thought start to shape our body. But then we can also have the body be released or changed, and then it begins to reconfigure the patterns of our thinking and emotion. So it's always moving kind of back and forth, right? So I just feel like we're really being prepared to receive some very powerful newness and potential upgrades, if you will. And still a lot of it depends on what we choose to do with it. So the more we can release the trauma meaning making, the trauma stories, the more possibilities we have to receive the new and decide how do we want to co-create with that. I've never said that before, so how fun. I'm like, oh, great.
Mm. Mm. Thank you, Pat. Thank you. I think I'm gonna invite you to even say a little bit more because you speak of these paradigms as a choice, right? The power over paradigm, versus the earth paradigm, the trauma and the stress and how to go deeper to release it. And I wonder if you can say more about what are some ways that we all can step out of the old paradigm and into the new, what we're being asked to step into, more, like you said, earth centered, more oneness with each other.
Hmm. Well, I mean, the first thing that came up when you asked that, as you were forming that question, was get your trauma healing in, man. You got to get that trauma healing in. Because I say we're a traumatized species. So definitely, I come from an indigenous people. I'm a survivor of attempted genocide, like straight up. That's my very recent history. And it's not even history, it's ongoing right now. We're probably the one of the largest populations of missing and murdered as an ethnic group, and yet we're not even those those disappearances are not even being recorded as part of statistics of human beings that are being disappeared. Like we're not even on the radar of that. So that genocide actually isn't over for us. We're still in it. Um, so yes, there is some special circumstance there, but I'm going to say overall, as a human species, we're traumatized. We're indoctrinated again into this power over paradigm, which is presented to us as this is the way Earth is. And this is how we are with each other, and these are the hierarchies, and these are, money is the determining factor of everything. And it's like, I say I have a privilege. I feel very privileged, and more every day, being an indigenous person. And it hasn't always been that way. It has seemed like kind of a hard row to hoe earlier on, but now I feel a great privilege because I say I get to step out of modern world paradigm almost entirely and step into a completely different one. And the way it looks, that paradigm tells me, to step into Diné paradigm, to step into Lakota paradigm. And that's not to say that it's not affected or connected to this other paradigm, but there's a way of being able to observe myself as human being and understand there's another way to be a human presence on this Mother Earth other than modern world paradigm tells me, right? And so this is where I feel like it makes sense maybe for me to come in and be the one speaking here and answering these questions today. I hope that's where maybe my qualification comes in for this. But I do feel like again, there's just this sense of how can this be right? How can this be maybe all there is? How can there, and especially now that this economic squeeze across the globe is on around, our poor children working maybe more than we did and not even being able to come up with subsistence. Um, certainly in this superimposed nation state upon indigenous continent that we call the United States. That seems to be the case more and more. So that's why I say I think trauma healing is for everybody, and there is something about accessing the truth of the biology because below the trauma there is an organism that is designed actually for Earth. There is an organism that is designed for cooperation and collaboration and community. Like we haven't been so far off course for so long that our biology has devolved to accommodate this death way. Sometimes I call it also when I'm feeling more extreme. But let me say some things that my guides have said to me around how to begin to choose paradigm. one, you got to notice that it's not the only game in town. So maybe that's what I'm really trying to address here. There's more than one paradigm. There are people who live in very different paradigms, sharing the same sky, the same water. They have mother-in-laws. I always like to joke. They have, they have the same circumstances, and yet they orient to being a human presence on the planet in very different ways. So we can notice that and say, oh, okay, so it's not crazy to say that the way I see myself, the paradigm I choose to see myself in, can be a choice. Um, what my guides have said to me sometimes is, you are responsible for placing yourself before the truth frequently because this other paradigm is repeating itself to you in every way, and it's getting more and more and more constricted, more controlling, in so many ways. And so um, you're biologically susceptible to repetition. And so, how can you place yourself in a way where you're not only receiving the repetition from this power over paradigm? And now the power over paradigm is not so concerned with earth. It's not so concerned with relationships. It's not so concerned with spirit. It's very consumed and operates the way it's successfully operating, if we can call it that, is because we're engaging only the intellect and negating all the rest of this organism's way of being able to perceive, receive, and also express, right? So maybe if we look at it that way and we say, well, what do you mean by the truth? What kind of truth can I place myself in front of? So I always say, well, the earth has got to be a part of our truth. We don't have life without earth. We don't, I mean, I know there's a whole bunch of folks who seem to think that they can get rich by blasting off of earth. I mean, I really feel like there's powers that be that really feel like they're on the teetering on the edge of should we be putting our resources towards trying to fix earth. And I've met some of these people, and they say, well, I would be willing to do that as long as I get to keep making a bunch of money by helping out, which for me is like, wow, where are you? And then but the part that they're teetering against is, wow, but if we just abandon earth and strip her on our way out to outer space, we're gonna be the first ones to make a killing. I mean, this is how distorted this this way of thinking has become, and it's like, whew. So my call, and this is my call, this is my rebel call, if you will, to those of us on this call right now and those who see this is, man, I'd be declaring myself an earthling in every possible way I could, because I feel like at this point I have to engage spiritual law. And so these people cannot do this against my will, against my consent, without engaging spiritual law. But we don't even have spiritual law on our radar. We think we have no consent. We think, what's our consent going to do? They're going to do it anyway. Well, they might do it anyway, but eventually they have to contend then with the spiritual law that says anytime you overcome my consent, there is an accounting that has to come due. But to just hand it over without even engaging that much, spiritual law accounting, that seems crazy. So for me, part of the truth is I have to acknowledge I was given this incredible gift of free will. I was given will. I was given the power of consent, and I have to engage it. So kind of going a little bit far afield here, but let me finish this part about truth. So, what are the ways that I place myself before truth? Being out on the earth, listening for the earth, understanding how connected I am to earth. But also, even what we're doing here, coming together to listen, to pray, to engage. This is also part because with our devices, we're getting moved farther and farther away from even connecting with each other. And look at our younger generations. Look at where they're at with having any capacity to be social, to connect with others. That's an important part of truth. Um, and I don't know, for me, the fire is also truth. To make that fire, to sit around the fire. Um, to sit in front of the river, to uh, all of those things, and in the face of so much calamity that's being generated on Earth, it's hard to feel that those are important activities. But I I don't know how much control I have over the people who want to blast off of Earth. And so for me right now, I'm digging in hard into declaring myself earthling, declaring my devotion to Earth, telling the powers that be that I want this life, I want this Earth. Um, and I don't know, that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Pat. And when I hear you say that, it just reminds me this devotion to the earth. It just reminds me of how we have become so disconnected from her, but also lost that recognition that all of Earth is sacred, and these rivers are sacred, the fire is sacred. So it feels like this, yeah, it feels so bizarre to me when we hear of wanting to blast off into outer space, because it's like the reverence and the sacredness of life here, and the intimacy that we have with life right here on earth is so beautiful, and somehow, yeah, far removed or neglected, um, cast aside. And
Yeah.
so as we just connected a little before we began this conversation, you mentioned that you're coming from a conversation and conference, part of which is about reimagining the sacred. And I'm just really curious if you could speak into, yeah, that piece of how could we, as humanity, what are some of the things that we as individuals could um, be doing here to really bring that sacredness, that presence back into all of our lives.
Thank you. I want to back up just for a moment and say, I I I really do think it's much fewer people than we realize who are instigating such anti-human, anti-life, anti-earth proposals. Because of the way media has grown and is being used, it can feel like there's this huge majority that are out engaged in this. But I really wonder about that. I don't know that that's the case at all. So um, anyway, for what that's worth, and we can feel better when we feel like we're in the majority, or however that is, and so I'll just name that. And I'll say, I'll just correct a little bit. So I'm actually in a small retreat with folks that I've been working with for a number of years around reimagining money and protecting the sacred. Um, and so it's been such a powerful inquiry because, like I said earlier, we have most everybody is indoctrinated at this point. There's very few humans on Earth who aren't aware of money or don't feel like this is the way that you get to have anything that you need, right? And so to reimagine money is a powerful prospect. And um, gosh, it's been such a long journey. It's hard to know where to start to talk about that, but I just want to say a couple words about that. So, for me and my time with spirit, um, Michael and I were mentioning at the beginning that some of these ceremonies that we both have come to participate in, I say they are the ones that taught me that there has to be a spirit, something, because some of the things that we are asked to do in these ceremonies are not humanly possible to do. And yet we're making the most sacred vow of our being, of our heart, of our soul, that we will see these ceremonies through. And like I say, there's no way to humanly do that unless there's some kind of divine intervention and spirit coming to meet us. So I guess that's another privilege I feel like I have, is that I've had that experience a number of times in this lifetime. And there are whole groups of human beings human beings who live that way. They make it a point to put themselves in that position so that they can not only know that Earth is such a beauty and such a medicine, and that we are Earth, and that Earth is for us and we are for Earth, which, is confusing for some swath of human beings, seemingly, with all the tech stuff going on. But there are also whole groups of human beings who understand that the spirit is somehow in that mix as well and comes to meet us. Um, so I guess from that perspective, I'm going to say that, in my relationship with money, money has been a powerful place to put certain spiritual ideas to the test. Because everything's on the line with money, right? And so I say, spirit. So one of my equations that I'm working with right now is I'm saying I'm looking for unlikely allies, enacting radical bridging, listening for outrageous proposals from spirit. That's my jam. That's my game. That's where I want to be. And I'm finding a lot of places to be there, and it's fantastic. Because at this point it's like, what do you got to lose, right? So I'm like, okay, so like for instance, so I feel like Spirit has been making these proposals because I don't know. It started with you were asking what kind of actions can people take. So for me, that journey with Spirit started with going out in the morning. I say when that holy star is coming up over the horizon and turning towards that holy star and declaring myself a human being, a part of earth, a part of life, wanting my life, and declaring to that which serves light. My elders say that's important. And telling them I'm presenting myself and I'm asking for your guidance. This is, I want to live. And when I'm in that time, I try to be just as real as I can possibly be. I don't try to be holy. I don't try to sound pious. I just like I put it on the line to the spiritual realm out there. And so if you were to try that, let's say for 30 days, I'd be so interested to know what comes back to you. A lot of people have to work through a lot of fear and shame because we're taught, especially through this emphasis on the intellect and through the way that some people consider to be science. I want to point out that Indigenous peoples have very profound science that involve the spirit, that involve the ceremony, that involve many things. But that's how they were able to achieve so many things that you see on the Great Mystery series television shows, right? It's like because their science didn't exclude those things. But I want to say that, so to stand out and to make that offering is a gesture that has been known all over this earth throughout time. That's what human beings have done. And so to inquire, and even if you say, I don't know, this lady that I saw on this Zoom call said that if I stand out here and make this offering, that you might respond to me. And so I'm listening, that which serves life, for would what you would say to me. I'm asking for guidance. I'm asking for direction. Um, and and I say, the other joyful part about doing that is I get to know that I'm standing in the middle of this ancient conversation between lovers, between this holy star, our sun, and this Mother Earth. And I always say, he knows what to say to her. He knows just what to say to her because whatever he's saying to her, it's causing life to just come tumbling out of her. It just tumbles out of her. And she's like, she is languid and sensuous and a fat, happy mama, with the way this sun is talking to her. And I love feeling myself as the child of these sensuous, passionate, powerful parents. And so that's where it begins with me. But going back to the money, one thing that Spirit has been saying to me in these outrageous proposals. So Spirit will make an outrageous proposal of some kind, and the ones that I think of first are, if this ceremony were to take place, which involves global participation and all kinds of stuff, right? A great healing would be possible on earth. And I always say, Spirit knows I'm a sucker for that. And so I'm always like, really? You say, what is it? What could we do? and so I'm in right away. And but often in that proposal, one of my first questions will be, but gosh, that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money. We got to fly people from all over the world to this place and stay there for a month. And where am I going to get that kind of money? And so that's how my conversation with Spirit used to go all the time. And Spirit's like, well, you can shut it down and limit it if you want to, but if you were willing to just leave it open and see what we could do here, you might be surprised. And so I'm like, I tell people, when you hear these outrageous proposals, you don't have to say yes, just don't say no. Just don't say no, because they can't cross your consent and your free will, right? And so I stay as open as I can, and I start opening my mouth in places, and I'm like, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I heard that if we could get this together, something might happen. And then here comes everything we need. It just comes right in, and I'm like, wow. And so now that conversation has become very shorthand. I try not to even have that question, but I still end up having it sometimes because some of these proposals are talking about millions of dollars. What do I know about millions of dollars? I don't know that much about millions of dollars. That's not where I come from. I don't have a lot of experience there, but I find that even when it's on that scale, and I'm just like, okay, if you say it's possible, I've been around you enough to know that, yeah, there's a way for this to happen. I'm going to try not to say no. I'm not going to try not to limit. I'm going to try not to shut it down. And the way it goes now is Spirit's like, this is possible. And I say, okay. Spirit says, are you in? I say, okay. And then part of me is like, don't say it. Don't think it. And then I finally end up saying, that sounds like a lot of, and then immediately before I can even finish the sentence, Spirit says, irrelevant, irrelevant. And I have to know from my experience now, it is irrelevant because Spirit is saying, look, the way you guys have placed values on things and the limitations that come with that is very different than how the earth thinks about it, the way the Spirit thinks about it, the way possibilities think about it. So you can either stick with your own limitation and values, or you could step into my cause and effect. And so I've been finding myself stepping into some very outrageous cause and effect and having kind of the time of my life, even in the middle of this crazy time of just blasting open limitation. So the truth is human cause and effect, human logic is quite skewed relative to what's actually possible with earth logic, earth love, earth relationship, and spirit logic in particular. And that takes a little practice, maybe, but I'm just here to say it's out there and it's happening.
Hmm. Thank you, Pat. Oh my, there's so much there to catch and to follow. And I love what you said about outrageous proposals. What does Spirit have in store for us? What is being asked of us in this historic moment in time, right? And I wonder, as a collective seeding the future, what is being asked of each of us in this moment? How can we be good ancestors to the future ones, the next 7 generations yet to come? What we call here at Purpose Guides Institute, living your soul's calling. Like, how do we help people listen, feel into, use those sensory organs and intelligences to really perceive what is being asked of us in this time?
Hmm. Well, I feel like I may have said this here at Purpose Guides Institute before, but maybe it bears repeating. So, since that's one of your foundational questions. Um, so I get a chance to work with young people sometimes. And for a while, I was working with like 15, 16-year-olds every year. And what I used to say to them was, first of all, I would say, you've got to want your life. You've got to want your life like this. You got to want it. You got to want it. And I didn't really know what we were heading into, and I didn't know what our young people are heading into. Let's just pause for a moment and feel into what on earth must these young people be making of everything that's going on right now for us olders. So I just say a prayer for them. And I know they came here equipped, and at the same time, it's like, whew. So that's the one thing I often tell them is I bow to you. The fact that I believe that everybody came here, nobody's here on accident right now. There's way too much going on right now. And you chose to come here right now. And you're equipped to be here right now. And you came with purpose, I feel like. And so I bow to you. And I bow to everybody on this call. I bow to you for coming now. And what I say to myself is, I always have this image of me and Spirit standing watching the earth scene and me pulling on Spirit's sleeve saying, "Put me in, coach. Put me in. I know I could do it. I can see it. I can see what I can do, and then you come in and it's like whoosh. You have no memory of what the heck it was you saw. And so you have to like come upon it again. The pieces have to come and you're like, wait a minute, that's ringing a distant bell. Oh, that one's ringing a distant bell. Oh, okay. And so pretty soon, and I will say that at this moment, I feel like I am full on living my purpose, full on living my purpose. And that's a good feeling. It doesn't leave me wondering. Like I hear a lot of people really wondering, like, oh my God, there's so much going on. What the heck am I supposed to do? And I'm like, well, I've been praying for quite a long time. Like I've prayed with here on this call with everybody here. Show me how to participate in the highest possibility for life, light, and love. And so I've been praying that for a decade. And I feel like, well, I think I have been being shown what my part in that is. And so I'm walking it, right? But anyway, going back to the young people. Um, so one, maybe having this sense of like I say when things get really crazy and tough, I say, my spirit believed I could do this. So I guess I can. There's a way. Like the spirit would not have let me come here if there wasn't some way to squeeze through all these tight spots and whatever it is. So I'm like, there is a way. So if you want to borrow that sense of confidence that way, you can borrow that from me. But I really do feel that. And then the other thing I say to the young people is I say, your joy matters. Your joy matters. And that goes along with what my elders, my people, we talk about original beauty. So we don't come from original sin where I come from. So we're not always trying to catch up and trying to get gooder and trying to be worthy. That like we say, no, we arrive in beauty. So my elder said, you were born into beauty as beauty for joyful life. That's the truth. You were born into beauty as beauty for joyful life. That's the truth. So let's just pause with that one. What would that feel like? Like your baseline is beauty. And that reminds me of what something Osho said. Osho said, we have not to seek the truth. We have only to remove the lie. And then beauty shines in all of its truth shines in all of its radiant beauty. So that's what my elders are saying. The beauty is always there. And sometimes we get off course, something gets thrown on top of it. But there is a way when you come back to origin, the origin is beauty. So beauty in our language is the word hojo, which means balance, vitality, harmony. So that's what we mean when we say beauty, right? So that's a very different orientation. And so, anyways, I say to these young people, your joy matters. And if you have young people around, I'm going to challenge you to say this to them because I can't tell you how many groups of young people I've said that to, and tears will just start streaming down their beautiful faces because you know what? Nobody has ever said that to them. They've been trying to get into Harvard since they were 5 years old. How's that for horrible? God. Oh my God. And so and so to say your joy matters. And and sometimes I'll say to the adults around them, your joy matters too. And how if you're not living in your joy, how can you ask these young people to follow you? Why should I follow you? Am I going to follow you to be just as miserable as you are? And I wouldn't recommend that to them. And yet, the way this modern world paradigm has been moving, that's been exactly the proposition. How terrible. when we are in beauty, as beauty for joyful life. So I say, to the young people, your joy matters. And part of the reason it matters is because joy is your compass, because there's nothing more joyful than living your purpose. And so the closer you get to joy, the more you know you're close to your purpose. Your purpose is going to give you some joy. And so, I tell the elders, why should we ask them to want their life if you don't want your life? And I say, the reason I think we don't talk about joy to our young people is because we have been indoctrinated in this modern world paradigm. We're pretty sure there's not going to be that much joy anyway. So why bring it up? To our most precious, beautiful children, that's nuts. We can change that. Even if you don't know how they're going to get to their joy, I still encourage you to propose to them that their joy matters and your joy matters. I think actually this place was meant to run on joy. We're so far from it, it's hard to imagine, but I really do feel like that is the truth. So I forget what the question was now, but maybe we'll go on to the next one.
It was absolutely perfect. Thank you so much, Pat. Thank you for that wisdom. Yeah. And I also just love that. I'm a mother of two teenagers myself, and it's just a beautiful reminder to say that to my own children. Your joy matters. Yeah, 100%. Thank you. We're actually going to move to some questions from the audience or from other people in the room. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask Pat, please do send it in the chat to Marlena. We'd love to have we've got about 15, 20 minutes here where we could have some questions from people who have been tuning in. So the first person I'm going to invite in is Alicia. And Marlene is going to add you, Alicia, and I'm going to invite you to ask your question directly to Pat. Hoping Marlene can find you there. Or Alicia, maybe you could unmute, and that will make it a little easier for Marlene to find you, assuming that you are still here, of course. Marlene, you're struggling to find her? Okay. Then maybe we are going to move on if we can't find Alicia. So if there are...
Here you are.
Ah.
Sorry. Sorry, can you hear me now? Yes, you can. Okay, sorry about that. My computer is not very friendly. Okay, so I have a question that's kind of like, my experience is that so many of us carry, my name is Alicia and I'm from South America. And I'm from everybody. I'm Muisca, I'm Spanish, I'm Black. And, I noticed that when I was a kid. I was like, how are we all in this together? And some of us are aware we have it in our bodies. And so I'm so appreciative, Pat. And my question has to do with shame and how in the system we carry shame from the beginning because we're never enough. And I know that that's not the way your elders taught you. And I know that's not the way many people understand what is. But how do we, shame is a word, lies are a word, but what's the kind of work we do so that we can meet each day fully? How do we let go of these burdens that were never really ours? I know that's a big question, but I see so many people carrying it and they don't even have words for it. They just don't think anything is possible. And so.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, I'll start by saying some of you may or may not know that I have this amazing daughter. Her name is Lila June, Lyla, Lila June Johnston. She gives talks, and she's also a great musician. So look up her music. I guess her stage name is just Lila June. But she used to say to me, "Shame is the oldest trick in the book," and I'm going to agree with that. So this is causing me to go into a part of my cosmology that I don't always go into, but sometimes it's necessary. So for me, I hold that there is, I don't know what to call it, an energy, an entity, um, a spirit, but I call it trickster. And had somebody try to correct me recently. I'm like, I don't think you understand who Trickster is. Trickster is actually a very playful entity. And I'm like, well, that's one version of Trickster. But there's another version of Trickster that my elders talk about, and they say this one's quite serious. And I'm going to say this version of Trickster is interested in tricking us into giving away this life, meaning human beings, tricking us into giving away this life of our own free will, because it's a free will construct. There's no way to destroy this place without some level of full consent. So that's why I'm always bringing up consent and free will and such, because I feel like the game is on. How can we get these human beings to give their consent to all kinds of stuff, right? And so, and I actually, as I've been watching, trying to study, well, what is happening to our consent? So one, I feel like we've been tricked out of our consent or the power of our consent, the value of our consent. Um, like because we're not consulted about our consent right from birth. Even especially in Western kind of hospital births, or even like now, like everybody's like cesarean is like the way in a way there's some kind of violation of consent there of the mother, of the process, of everything. It changes the biology, it changes the nervous system, it changes the emotional patterns, it changes everything to have that kind of a birth. And I think those things can be remedied, but there we are. And so, anyways, um, and so with this trickster always at work, I feel like one of the things that happens is our consent gets divided into pieces. So we're like, okay, I guess I can give my consent over here, and I guess I can give my consent over here, and I guess I can give my consent over here. But when you put all of those together, they end up being a consent we would never agree to, right? And so our consent is getting chipped away and dissected into tiny, tiny little pieces. And I think the overall effect is shame in a way, because it's like, wow, I mean, I don't really want to be using plastic, but everything I try to buy is wrapped in plastic. I don't really want my kid to be on their device so often, but what the heck am I supposed to do? I don't want, it's just like, it's like this continuous little pecking. So one, we're contending with that. The other part that I would say about the shame is this is a little bit more in depth in this cosmology. So but it's there for me. The way my daughter was talking about it is that, in some ways, the reason shame is the oldest trick in the book, which is actually why I feel original sin is all part of trickster strategy, is to say, you have to hide yourself. Once you go into shame, you have to hide yourself. So you hide yourself from goodness, you hide yourself from the divine, you hide yourself from your joy, you hide it because you don't deserve it anymore. And so then that shame builds on more shame and more shame and more shame. So for me, it's somehow helpful to notice that game on, it's like, wait a minute, I don't want to be participating in this game on. I don't want to be participating in being led into shame. So I'm always working on trying to figure out when I feel shame, I'm like, okay, we got to get to some truth here because I believe, I mean, even before I started really thinking about my own culture's stance that we are original beauty, I just felt like I don't I don't see, how I can be a part of Earth. When I look at Earth, I don't see sinners out there. I don't see shameful things going on with all the life out there. That's not part of that equation. And as I have come to accept that I am also part of Earth, it occurs to me that I don't think I can really be a part of that. So for us, culturally, when someone does something that violates the code of relationship or consent or free will or those things, even murder, let's say, our restorative justice. So restorative justice is a probably a I haven't really studied this, but I'm guessing it's going to be an underlying principle for most indigenous peoples, restorative justice, not punitive justice. Um, but part of what happens is we go back into a ceremony house whose very construct speaks to us about who we are, where we are, how it is, this construct of original beauty. So even walking into that place is saying, this is who you really are. And then you sit down with all your relations and they sing the harmony and the beauty back into you and back into the situation so that you can walk out and resume your path of beauty. So even as we see, even outside of the church, when we look at our justice, I call it the injustices, um, that's not what's happening there. And now, our justice system is consumed by profit addiction. Profit addiction is so rampant that we're trying to trick people into having to be incarcerated so that people can make money. And that also has to do with calling you a shameful person who's incorrigible because you can never get out of this system. But the whole system is a trick. I have people close to me who've tried to cooperate, try to do every which way in that system, and man, it just won't let you out. It just won't let you out. It's not designed for any kind of justice. So kind of far afield again, but there you go. What I would say about shame. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Alicia, for your question. I appreciate that. We're going to bring on S. Joni Luna with your question. So I think that Marlena will find you and or maybe unmute so that we can find you and add you here.
Hi, Auntie Pat.
Hi, niece. I'm so
Tinker
glad they
says
picked
hello.
you. Oh,
Yeah.
Tinker. Hey, Tinker. My
Wants to
sister
say hello
Tinker.
real quick.
Hi,
Hi, sis.
I'm baking pies.
Oh, nice. I wish I was there.
She's baking pies.
Blueberry
pies. So, Auntie, my
Hey.
question is, when you speak about spirit law as the original way of living in right relationship with all of creation, in a world shaped by human laws and systems that often separate us from one another and from the earth, what daily practices can help us remember to live according to spirit law?
Well, thank you. Well, again, the getting up and making the offering is a fantastic way to say I am available for the input. So again, if we're interbeing, if we're so interrelated, if we're so interdependent, I mean the way, and this is why I say she's nothing. This Mother Earth is nothing if not relational. Anything that any member does affects the whole. So we're in the ultimate three-legged race, right? And here's the spiritual setup about it though. So anything that any member does affects every other being, and we've been given free will. So I just think that's a fascinating spiritual setup, isn't it? Because I feel like at that point, what begins to become, even though there's free will, what begins to become the only thing that makes sense is how can I conduct myself such that it benefits the whole? So this is where I've because if I try to only benefit myself at the expense of somebody else, it ends up hurting me anyway, along with everything else. I just can't get away with it. And this is one of the big misleading things about modern world paradigm, is that somehow I'm going to benefit, even though the way I'm benefiting is causing those people to suffer. Somehow I'm going to get away with that. We're finding out there's no getting away with that. That's not the way this construct is. It's like trying to think you're going to get oxygen by breathing underwater. It just doesn't work, right? So, so so this is how indigenous cultures have done that I notice, and I think about. I don't have my little prop here. I usually hold up my little medicine wheel at this moment, but I say, I I have to consider that how can I step into this omnibeneficence? How can I step into this being a benefit and blessing to all? And so this doesn't just include human beings. I feel like this anthropocentric, maybe I said it right for once, construct is something that this noodle has made up, this intellect only, as it's trying to, it can create a logic train. If this, then that. If that, then this. If this, then that. And that's what satisfies this. It's like, as long as I can do that, then I'm good. But if you notice where this one leads sometimes, it's like a million miles away from common sense. And so we're really suffering from that right now. And so I just feel like as I think about how to be this being that benefits all, why would I only look to other human beings? Why would I, as you say, in the world where these are the rules and these are the laws, that's only true if it could be true that human beings' laws could be separate from everything else, but they can't. The way we enact our laws ends up affecting everything, just like anything does. So, I guess what I'm trying to get to is it would only make sense then for me to consult the larger, what I call the larger community, the rest of the community of life, the rest of the spiritual community, and I'm even going to go so far as to say in the community of cosmos relative to Earth. And so this is what the most indigenous peoples' practices are about. The ceremonies are about saying, let me stand here as a human being and consult with the whole community so that I can act in a way that actually is going to make sense for us all. And so when we go out and make that offering in the morning, that's doing that. It's saying, I know I'm not here acting on my own. I need the input from the whole community of which I am happily, joyfully, gratefully a part of. And so here I am. So that's, I don't know, I think that's probably the simplest and best way. And then it gets more elaborate from there, like the kind of ceremonies that Michael was talking about at the beginning. Those also do that in deeper ways. But yeah, thanks. Good to see you. So while I got this moment with Sister Joni here, and Tinker, I'll just name that we're both a part of a community called Women in Water Symposium. And this year, there's an invitation for 5,000 women to come together to pray on behalf of the water. So this is a vision. This is receiving, how do I participate in the harmony and the beauty of whole? And the answer came back to these particular grandmothers, and they said, get 5,000 women together to pray on behalf of the water. Why, who, and we don't know, but we know that when we listen to that kind of counsel, amazing, this is an outrageous proposal from Spirit, right? Amazing things can happen. So this is going to take place in September. And what's the website, Joni?
I have some information to share in the chat when the
Spiritofthewater.org.
chat's open.
Spirit of the what?
Spiritofthewater.org.
Spiritofthewater.org. So you can go on there and check that out. But I want to invite you as an extension of Grandmother Mary Ellen that women, oh, there's Tinker. Hi, Tinker. To come and pray with the water. And we also invite Men's Nation to come and support. Many of the spiritual leaders are going to be there. Orville Looking Horse will be there also, other grandmothers. So that's my little PR moment there.
Yay.
Marlene has the address. I just sent it to her to share. Barbara's there.
Uh-oh. Am I back? Are we back? I froze up for a second, it looks like.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that beautiful answer and beautiful questions. And I think we have time for one more question. And if I'm following people's who signed up first and foremost, there's a question from Amanda. Amanda, are you still here?
Yes.
Oh, there's Amanda. Yes, Amanda, would you like to ask your question of Pat?
Yeah. Hi, Pat. I was with you on the Pocket Project call. I work
Oh,
with the
hey.
Yes, I am from Palestine and I work on the Palestine Trauma Relief Project with the Pocket Project.
Mm.
And I so much connect with the Native American tradition. And with what's going on back home, I just feel I love what you spoke about joy and being born into joy. And I miss that so deeply. And I just wanted to connect with you and have some words of guidance. If you can channel something for me, I don't know. And I love the idea of the limitlessness of potential because now I'm trying to plan projects and, um, do more offerings for my community. And yes, financial support is needed and all of that. But yes, I think it's amazing that you mentioned this because I do want to think beyond all of this, And I guess it's not a question, it's more of a request to connect with you and feel few words, what you can, guide me or
Mm.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. Well, as you were talking, one of the things that came up for me was, sometimes people feel almost like a survivor guilt, I'll call it, when they know that there is such profound acute suffering happening to a people or one part of the world. And for some people, that also includes like places where the animals are suffering or
Yeah.
also right but I want to say that you just said you're talking about joy, and I still want to get beyond this pain that's happening back in your home. And so I just ask us to really feel and hear what you just said there, because it's important for those of us who are it seems like we take turns all around this world of where the suffering is. And I think it's important for us to, those of us who have an opportunity to feel our joy, to know our joy matters, is to go for it. We need that joy. We need that joy happening somewhere, even when there is suffering. I don't think it's going to help the suffering for us to forfeit our joy. And I don't know if you would say you would agree with that. Would you agree with that? I mean, we can have compassion, we can have empathy, we can send whatever help we can, but I don't know about forfeiting our joy and solidarity. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the more joy we have, the more the vibration of us, And this is one, I think, I mean, if you would meet someone from my country, we are really able to find joy even in the darkest places. Like we do have a way to, you know,
Yeah.
find
Do you know
joy.
do you know Sami Awad?
Yes, yes, he's a dear
Yeah,
friend.
he's a brother of mine.
I've, I've facilitated workshops at the Holy Land Trust with him. We
Hey,
worked
yeah.
together. Yeah,
So he's a
wow.
very joyful being, and he's
Yes.
right, and he's right in the thick of it. So I guess I
Yeah.
just wanted the folks here to hear from you, like you're in it. My people have been in it, and like I say, it's ongoing. But that the way that your people are literally under fire is how my people were under fire, and while I appreciate the empathy, and there are some kind of really amazing acts of reparation. Sister Joni, who was just on before you with my sister Tinker. Sister Joni is my niece, but she's a Catholic sister, so I call her sister too. But but she's a part of a movement where these Catholic sisters are being willing to be re-educated about their role in history and their role with Indigenous peoples and Black peoples. And the Catholic Church is the largest landholder on earth. And we have been working together for some years, and through this process of like really presenting actual true history to them. They are in the process of, we had one land return last year by Catholic sisters to Indigenous peoples. We have 3 more pending right now this year. And so here is this radical turn and shift in positioning and understanding of self. And so, that's possible. And so I just wanted people to hear from you that, to keep looking for the places of joy, to keep looking for those places of radical bridging and outrageous proposals from spirit where we get to see these turns. And so sometimes people feel like they got to put on the veil of suffering and tears in order to be in solidarity. And you and I, coming from our lineages, we're both going, no, please don't do that. Let's have joy fires be stoked where they can be stoked all over this Mother Earth. So thank you for coming forward. I really appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Pat.
blessings on you. Yeah.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, all of you, for your questions, and thank you, Pat, for the wisdom that you've been sharing with us today. Yeah, I really appreciate you spending this time with us, Pat, and I appreciate all of you choosing to spend this hour and a half with us here in conversation. So thank you so much. I think we could go on for quite some time, but I'm going to start to draw things to a close. But before we do that, I'd love to share a little bit about the work that we do here at PGI. Because I truly believe that this work is essential if we are to embody what Pat's offered us today, this idea of living a life that can be of benefit and blessing to all, for example. So here at PGI, we really believe that it is possible to live that life of deep joy and profound service. And I love what you said there, Pat, about actually when we're living in our purpose, we feel that joy. Joy and purpose they really do go hand in hand. And we might call this following your soul's calling. And when we do that, when we follow our soul's calling, the impact ripples out far beyond the individual and far beyond these times. So one of the questions that I sometimes am asked is, how do we make ourselves available to soul level purpose? And there are practices, many of them held in nature, that help us to tune into what is truly, authentically ours to carry to this world. And alongside those practices, having a guide who knows the terrain and a community who walks alongside you have proven essential for most people who are brave enough to take that deep dive into purpose or calling. So I wanted to let you know that starting in 6 weeks' time, on September the 2nd, Michael and I will guide a 12-session purpose discovery journey. And across those 12 modules, we'll be introduced to some of the most profound psychospiritual practices that we know of for communing with soul. So I just want you to, as we're drawing to a close, really consider this, and perhaps even close your eyes for a moment. What would life be like if even 5 or 10% of humans responded to a call to live a life of omnibeneficence, as you call that, Pat, this idea of living and benefit and blessing to all? What would Earth be like for the more than human world? What would the future hold if humans pivoted away from the default purposes of money, power, fame, comfort, security, and instead embraced a collective purpose of becoming midwives for more truth, beauty, and goodness? And next Saturday, which is August the 1st at the same time, 11 a.m. Pacific time, I'm having an intimate conversation that I'd love you to join us for, which is on exactly this topic, living your soul's calling. And I'll also be sharing more about the Purpose Discovery Program and its twin program, the Purpose Guides Training. So I really hope you'll come, and I'll send the link in a follow-up email for that as well. So we are drawing to a close. Marlena, I could just ask you if you could please open the chat. I'd love to just, if people could place into the chat a reflection, maybe something that's particularly struck you, something that's new, an insight, yeah, something you'd like to say as we move towards closure today. Yeah, beautiful. So a lot of gratitude for you, Pat, coming through, and joy. Yeah, just gratitude for our time together. Yeah, your joy matters. The omnibeneficence. Beautiful. Yeah, the old ones were wise to touch there. Thank you for sharing your profound wisdom. Yeah. Yeah, I love the spirit of fearless generosity. Beautiful. Yeah, and where do I give my consent away? Thank you. Yeah. Deep resonance for the remembering of self and our connection of interbeing. I found. Yeah, so much gratitude coming through here, and so much gratitude from myself as well, and from, I'm sure, behalf of Michael as well, to say thank you for joining us here at PGI once again, and for sharing your deep wisdom and yeah, for these times. It really does feel so important that we are able to live a life that is in right relation, that is in joy, that is in reverence to the sacred, that yeah, and that will enable us to move forward as humanity within this beautiful sacred hoop of life. So I'm going to hand over to you to close our gathering for us. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I want to close with this story of when the great flood came, Dragonfly came to the people and told the people, if you climb into the hollow reed, you might be able to survive what's coming. And some of the people heard Dragonfly, and they climbed into the hollow reed, and the floodwaters came and rose, and then they subsided. And they say that these were the first people that emerged to begin the next world. And so I think about those people all the time. I feel like we are in the process of transitioning from one world to another. And so my question for myself right now is, how can my life serve those who emerge from the hollow reed? And the way that I want to serve them is I mean, sure, those people are gonna have to find food, clothing, and shelter and all that, but what I want to know, what I want to contribute to is, what are the principles? What's going to be the fire in their heart that they remember and turn to from the previous world as they set out to begin the next world? And I say, I want them to have witnessed radical forgiveness. I want them to have witnessed radical generosity. I want them to have witnessed courageous acts of radical bridging between unlikely allies in every way possible, so that they know and they move forward knowing that that is the human lineage of right relations. And so that's my prayer. And my challenge maybe to each of you is to ask, how can my life serve those ones? What can I be doing to create those circumstances of radical forgiveness, of fearless generosity, that the next generations and those who continue forward can call upon, to know that that is actually who we are as human beings. So that I call upon Spirit to move with us and help us to move in that way.
Gratitude.
And thank you to one and all. Thanks for having me, and thank you for everybody for showing up for this, and may this, what we've done here, and what came through, many things I've never said before, travel to the places that need that medicine, hope, light, willingness goodness, beauty, joy. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And perhaps as we're leaving, you might want to unmute yourself and just say goodbye, and it'll be probably a bit of
Thank
noise.
you.
Blessings,
Thank you.
blessings.
Bye.
God bless you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Much
Thank you so much,
love.
Blessed
Rachael.
be.
Farewell.
Love.
Ashe.
Love
Ashe.
you all.
May it be so.
Love.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.